Hey, good morning, everybody. I am Lizzie, your VBAC mentor and birthy bullshit sorter outerer. And today I am talking with Ashley Winning, and we are going to talk all things home birth. We will be, I guess, busting some home birth bullshit while we chat. Ashley is a home birth mentor, and she has just launched a new program aimed at supporting women who are thinking about home birth, planning home birth or free birth, and helping you get the most out of your journey. So tell us a bit about yourself, Ashley. How did you end up here in this space?
Hey Liz, thanks for having me, by the way. Super excited to be chatting with you again.
It's always
We're
fun.
passionistas.
Yeah.
Um, I'm here because I had two unplanned surgical births that I didn't need to have, similar to your story. And I went on to have a free birth at home, similar to you. And I'm a highly sensitive person. And I found that during my process, I had hired a birth doula, but I found that support that I was getting through that birth doula, while she was super confident, she was very blunt and very matter of the fact. And as a highly sensitive person, I really needed that hand holding experience. I wanted the home birth dream that's kind of promised in Instaland, and you see the birth photos and the midwife's there and she's holding you, bringing you food. Like, I don't know if you've seen Meet the Midwife. Have you seen that? Is it called The Midwife, the show? The UK show. And the midwives come around to your house and they come and have a cup of tea, and it just looks so amazing. And that's the support that I'm really looking for. And I couldn't find a midwife to support me, which is why I chose the free birth. So my preference would have been a midwife. And I find majority of the women that I work with who are free birthing, their preference is to birth with a midwife. They either can't find one who's supportive of them or one that they really gel with, because again, there's temperaments, personalities, and all of those things that I wasn't aware of when I was planning my free birth. So I gravitated towards the most confident person that I could find, which, in many ways was a good thing, but at the same time, I really needed that nurturing. So, which is why I've been working with women in this space now for a few years. Before that, I was working in the postpartum space. So I've been supporting women probably about since 2017 now. And I just love nurturing, supporting, guiding, helping women feel more confident and able to do the things that they deserve, while getting that confidence boost that there's someone behind them supporting them, nudging them towards that path. And that's pretty much where I am now in that journey.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I feel like you and I work with very different groups of women. Because I'm very much the blunt, not
Yes,
hand-holding kind of
you are.
person.
Yes. Yes, I remember when I first came into contact with you, and I was like in the group, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna like watch from the sidelines. And I got to know the language and the reason behind it. But yes, and that's the thing, isn't it? We're both good at what we do, but we're doing different things, and like different people will gravitate to us, which I really love.
Absolutely. It is really, really important when you're planning a home birth, especially to
Yeah.
know that the people in your space, whether that be online or in person, that they are the right person to be in your space.
Mm.
I am absolutely not the right person for everybody. I fully fully accept that. And it is absolutely wonderful to know that there are other amazing women out there who can provide the support and services for highly sensitive women who really, really need and really deserve. Every woman deserves the right support for their
And
journey.
that's my little Layla barking in the background. Sorry about her. Layla,
Fine.
shh. I've closed the windows, but she might see a bird, so she's got to
Oh,
bark at the bird.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's not a problem at all. So let's get into the interview part of this. What do you find stops women from like declaring that they want to have a home birth, for taking that first step and, really getting into it?
I think primarily it is the fear of being different, and like fears. It's essentially fear. It's feeling like you're not courageous enough or brave enough to be that person to have the home birth, or that you don't want to be seen as different or do something that's potentially seen or viewed as dangerous. And so the people who are more confident in themselves, they know who they are, they grounded, they don't care what other people think. Like my husband's like that. He doesn't care what other people think. You know, he's not going to be guided by other people. Whereas somebody like myself, who is very looking, I'm an observer naturally. I'm looking to make sure I'm safe. I want to fit in with society, but I still want to pave my own way. So there's like a walk. You've got this call inside you to do something. You know that it's different, but it's really challenging to have the courage sometimes to step up and take the path that you need to go on. And we're so used to, from school, of, yes, teacher, can I please go to the toilet? You know, oh, doctor, please tell me what's wrong with me. And our society is created in a way that you're looking to authority to tell you what to do. And our authority figures are telling us, no, home birth is dangerous, home birth is reckless. The media is telling us that birth is inherently dangerous. Every woman who goes into birth is like rushed to the hospital like it's a medical emergency. In like an hour, she has the baby or ends up in surgery, or if it's a drama. I saw a terrible drama on The Good Doctor where this woman had all these catastrophic things happening. Oh,
I saw that one as well.
Yeah, I was like, and he performed his first cesarean section with guidance, and I was like, oh God.
I was like, this
is why people are scared of birth, and why so many women end up getting into a C-section when the doctor's like, pupils dilate, and they're like, oh no, I can't deal with this.
No.
At any flicker of variation from the textbook birth that we're believed to see as the holy grail of birth. And that's essentially, I believe, why a lot of women choose not to home birth. And especially here in Australia for women, it's not publicly funded throughout Australia. There are some in Western Australia, in Victoria, and I think in New South Wales. We're trying to get publicly funded in Queensland, but at the same time, even if you are going that route, you're going to be more medicalized. There's going to be a lot of fear mongering through the system quite often, unless you're low risk. And if you are not low risk, you won't be able to home birth anyways, because like I work with women in the NHS in the UK, and so you can pretty much home birth at any risk over there. But my clients have had fear mongering. They've had like a lot of crap. So it's not rainbows and unicorns. You're not going to get the same care as if you go with an independent midwife. And so you've got to then get your husband on board to, oh, why are we paying for it when his mother had a traumatic birth and he's traumatized from the previous birth? There's a lot of stuff, but a lot of it is ignorance to physiological and what actually is safe birth. And then the rest is kind of fear. But I mean, there's quite a lot of things that are kind of going on that you have to unpack. I think once you know about physiological and undisturbed birth, it really shoots you off in the trajectory of like, okay, I heard Dr. Rachel Reed say, if essentially the message I got from her was, if you want to have a physiological birth, if you want to have an undisturbed birth, then you don't step foot into the hospital, which is an intervention, because that stops the process. It slows down the process. You got the lights on, you're in a cool room, you've got people in your space. And so for me, I was like, okay, so if I want to have this birth that you've just talked about, this magical experience that our bodies are wired and set up to do, which I wouldn't say it's magical, actually. It's just a physiological experience, a natural thing, just like doing a poo. But it's a once in a lifetime thing. You know, have like one baby or maybe 10 babies, you know, in between repertoire there. So yeah, that's pretty much, you know, well, I mean, that was quite a lot to kind of unpack there, but yeah, that's pretty much what I see as why a lot of people don't home birth.
Yep. And I would say, and I'm assuming you work with women on these specific topics and helping them work through. So just because you're, you know, women might still be in that stage of, oh, I really want this magical birth, this home birth. They've still got all those buts though. But Hubby's saying
Yeah.
it's too expensive. I don't want to upset everybody. It's dangerous. What if something goes wrong? Like having someone to work through those with is really valuable.
Yes. So even when like a woman says, okay, I'm going to have a home birth, that doesn't mean all those fears and worries and challenges disappear, because you can't just magically make the environment around you disappear and make everyone believe in what you believe in. You still got your mother, your nosy mother, your loving, adorable mother who is coming in, and if you let her in on your little secret about your home birth, which many women do, then they become in a world of unstuck and the constant questions and the ideas of maybe you should just rent an Airbnb near the hospital because that would make me feel a lot safer. Maybe you should just book in with an obstetrician because that would make, not, they don't say that would make me safer, but they're always saying that because they have the best intentions for their children. But what they don't have is that knowledge that the children have. They don't have the information, and they also don't know what it's like for that desire and longing to have a vaginal birth if you've had a cesarean before, or if you know a different way to be true. Like they're just not, they haven't had that turning point. And so it's really hard to kind of open someone's mind until they've had a life-changing experience. And I think a lot of the women that I've had, they've had these really earth-shattering experiences that of a traumatic, horrific experience that shouldn't have happened. And they know that, like they've come to the realization that there could be a better way, there could be a more peaceful, calm way. And so the fears are still there. They are listening to their intuition, they're listening to their heart, they're listening to the logic, but they're still having to work through all of those challenges of our society, the fears and all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually refused to speak to my mother about birth when I was planning my free birth. At the very start, she was, oh, well, why don't you just get an obstetrician? And I'm like, well, because they have lower outcomes and there's no obstetricians in town that would even support me to achieve the birth that I want. And about halfway through my pregnancy, she went, oh, are you still doing that home birth thing? And I'm like, yeah, that's still a plan. She's gone, oh, well, don't tell me anything about it. And it was like my life's dream come true to ring her at 3 a.m. after I'd had my baby and gotten all snugged up and say, baby's here, we're at home, we're all good. But yeah.
And I didn't tell my family I was having a home birth because I knew what that would mean. Like I'd gone through the VBAC in hospital and my sister was calling me, your baby's going to die. And I'm like, you're insane. I'm going to be birthing with an obstetrician. So I was not going to allow that to the fear to creep in. Some of us are able to see that after an experience. Some of us are able to, and some of us are really hopeful, or really don't understand the impact of how someone so influential on our life can really plant the seeds of doubt. And so I did not want that to happen because, of course, I love my family, although sometimes their behavior is quite toxic and quite negative and unhelpful. I know that it's coming from a space of love. Like they're not doing it to try to hurt me. They're trying to do it to save me. And I didn't need saving because I was a competent woman who knew more than they did about birth. And I proved it right. You know, like I was like, yes, I did it. But like, I didn't even feel like when I did it that I needed to prove anyone because I knew that I could.
Yeah.
And so all of the work that I did got me to the point of that. I wasn't like, you know, some of the VBAC women are like, yes, I did it. It wasn't a triumph for me. I was just like, okay, you know, this happened because I really believed in physiological and instinctive birth. And to me, it was just, of course, it meant so much to me, but the feeling for me was a feeling of wholeness and completeness after not having to have another surgical birth, which felt really unwhole and broken. So that was really transformational for me.
Yes, I feel like when you have a normal physiological birth, like outside of the hospital, it's all a little bit anticlimactic, isn't it? You get to the end and it's like, oh, so okay, I've just had a baby. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what do you wish that women knew about planning a home birth?
Okay, so when it comes to planning a home birth, I think it's really important, this conversation that we just had, to understand who your birth support's going to be, because you are as good as the 5 people that you spend your time with. So if you're around people who do not believe in home birth, do not believe in physiological birth, how can you talk to them about your birth plans? You're constantly going to get butt up against, oh, I think you should speak to like your mother, have an
Yes.
obstetrician. It's going to make me feel better because I'm your mother and I love you dearly and I want the best for you, because that's what mothers do.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
all mothers, inside, what your mum's like, what she's going to be like. There's ways to prep to see how they would feel. And you could easily do a test of like, oh, what do you, just in a general conversation before pregnancy or even during, oh, my friend blah 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 is having a home birth, or I heard about this home birth the other day, just to see what they say. And if they say, oh my God, that's so stupid, you can be like, okay, you're not going
Yep.
to be one of my people. But if you've got people that are home birth advocates or supportive, and you're going to be leaning on them and talking to them, they're going to be lifting you up and they're going to be cheering you on and supporting you. So when you're feeling those fears and those doubts, you've got someone to push you straight back up to help you feel really supported again, rather than going down in that spiral circle of, oh, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And spending like days on it and then thinking, maybe I should make that an obstetrician appointment. Maybe I should. Because unfortunately, what happens is women then, especially in crisis or panic mode, is they go into that flight mode where they start to make plans and they make an appointment here, they make an appointment here, then they're outsourcing their expertise to other people and other people the authority, rather than coming back home to yourself and knowing truthfully what it is that you want, and knowing with being grounded, this is okay, I'm safe, I'm doing the right thing. And I think a lot of that stems when you haven't got that support network, you haven't got that support team, because you're kind of, it's all patchy, and you haven't got that kind of working to keep you, it's okay, someone to kind of shake it out of you and just, it's
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
we're doing this, it's all good.
I love that. I feel almost teary. Like I refer to it as your posse. When we
Yeah.
talk about, the people, you need to have that little handful of people who are going to actually, who believe in you, who don't just believe in you, but believe in what you want to achieve for this
Yeah.
birth. And sometimes we have to go looking outside of the people that we normally hang out with, because, you know, I like you say, I don't think any of our mothers, want us to have a horrible birth, but they don't
No.
believe in that dream of a beautiful, personalized, gorgeous home birth, because, well, our mothers gave birth in the early 80s where that just wasn't a thing.
And also, it's like, if you're going to learn a new skill, like say you're going to be a gardener, you want to learn about gardening, you're going to go hang out with gardeners, you're going to read gardening books, you're going to go do gardening, go to gardening summits and things like that. You're going
Yes.
to go to Bunnings and go ask them about the
Yes.
plants. Like that's what you're going to do. And so you do this for every aspect of your life. And this is no different. If you want to learn how to play football, you go get a football coach, you go get, a group of football buddies to go practice with. And this is exactly the same thing. This is a time in your life where you need to learn this skill, this expertise, this confidence for this particular thing, because you don't have the lived experience of going through that experience. It's only afterwards that you're like, it's like when you have your first baby, and a lot of us, not all of us, but we're a nervous wreck. Like they're precious, they're breakable. You wanted to be like the perfect parent, do everything right, make all the organic food,
Yep.
everything. If you
Yes.
don't do it right, it's like, oh my God, I'm a bad mom, I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that. Second one comes along, you're a lot more relaxed. By the time the third one comes along, are you alive? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, you're like, it's all good, I'm experienced, I know what I'm doing. And
Yep.
that's not to say that, a second or third time home birther doesn't need that, because as a highly sensitive person myself, I still need that extra. I really love the emotional support and the guidance. And so there'll always be people like us who love to have that hand holding, love to have those cheerleaders behind us, and just love to really relish in that experience too. And you're kind of up leveling as well as you go. But yeah, everyone's so different. And I guess that's a really like a tangible way of kind of showing the difference between like, just a new skill, just a new
Yeah.
experience.
I really love that. And I'm going to use that analogy, I am sure, because I love gardening. So
Why? Which is why I used it. Because like, I mean, I don't know nothing about gardens, but I had to learn because I wanted to be a gardener. So I had to
that's
turn to
it.
the experts, and I was like going to all these home gardening things. I was going to these gardeners'
Yeah.
houses, like walking through their fruit and veggie gardens. I was going to gardening meetings and meeting all the gardening nerds. And now I know so much more. But if I just sat at home, and I would never have the confidence to play around and figure it out, would
You
I?
don't go and ask your mate who can't even keep their lime tree alive. You go and
Exactly.
ask someone who
Yeah.
actually has experience creating the type of
True.
garden that you want. I love
And it's like what they say, like you don't ask for financial advice from somebody who's
oh,
broke,
absolutely.
because you want the advice from a rich person or someone who's really good with their money, to get where they're going to get to.
Yep. Yes. So what's the best way to have a home birth? Let's jump in.
So the best way to have a home birth, you mean the best way to plan a
What's
home
the
birth?
most important thing to know?
So, I mean, the most important thing is you can like plan it as extravagant or as little as you want. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing. It doesn't have to have all these things. You don't have to do all of these classes. You don't have to be an expert. I truly do believe that when you're planning a home birth, that it is about physiological and undisturbed birth, because you've really got to start to believe in yourself and trust in your body's ability, which can be really hard when you've had, say, one of the biggest things is like I had a posterior birth. My baby was OP. I was told my baby was in a wrong position. That's one that really gets women, especially if they haven't had a vaginal birth, because they believe that that means that they have to have a baby in an optimal position. So they go do the spinning babies and do all these things. And I'm not necessarily against those things, because those things can get you to a certain level of saying yes to a home birth. But I also don't think that women need to do all of those things to successfully have a home birth. For example, my babies were all posterior. I reclined on all of my babies on the couch. I had HD. I was very sick. I didn't move. I wasn't active. I'm active now, but I wasn't active then. And I birthed my baby brilliantly at home. My baby was posterior. And so I learned about posterior births. I understood that they are a little bit different to the textbook birth, that nobody talks about those variations of birth. And so that's something you need to really understand physiological birth and trust in it, so that you, like, that was my unwavering trust. It's like, well, look, I can conceive a baby, right? I can grow a baby. So the birth part's like the simplest part of all of it, but we make it sound like the most complicated, complex part. But it's just the evacuation of a beautiful human being that you've just made over 9 months, which, by the way, did not have any support or help from the medicalized team most of the time. So for me, like, someone asked me, did you have prenatal care? And I'm like, and I've seen those shows where the woman's like, I didn't know I was pregnant and I went to the hospital and I was in
Yep.
labor.
Yep.
Every single one of those, they freak out. This woman's had no prenatal care. The baby could be really sick. And I know I was watching this through my free birth. And I'm like, so these women are going into labor, right? Everything's happening. They've grown this baby, usually perfectly. And prenatal care is really just tests to see. We're just kind of looking, like, how's your blood going? How's your urine going? We're just kind of looking for possible problems or infections. And we're just sneaking peeking at your baby. But ultimately, they can't do anything for that baby until the baby's born. If there is a problem, they could make the baby come sooner to potentially save the baby's life. So I'm not saying that there's not potential for life-saving things or anything, but ultimately there's no like, okay, here's a needle and we're going to make your baby magically perfect and everything's going to be fine. That's not it. There is no real prenatal care. It's like, let's check your blood pressure. How you going? If you're in the hospital system, it might be have some anxiety and confusion and worry, and you might be on edge for the rest of your time. And that's not prenatal care. That's abuse, you know, and that would be abuse if it was a husband-wife dynamic, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So why is it not abuse in that sort of situation? So I kind of laugh at the idea of prenatal care now, because prenatal care to me would be like holding someone's hand, giving them support, encouraging them, cheering them on, plus the medical stuff if they want that. But you can't have one without the other. Otherwise, it's not really proper care, is it? So
Yeah.
I think that physiological and instinctive birth is like the number one thing people need to know. With that, you understand that you have to have the right people in your birth space, because you can't have people interrupting, disturbing, coaching, telling you what to do. And so even with a midwife, you can have that if she's hands off, choosing the right person in there. And then go for gold. Have your birth pool, don't have a birth pool, have your shower, do whatever you want, set it up as beautiful as you want or as minimalistic as you want. And so it's really your adventure to kind of choose. And it can be as magical as you want or as simple and boring as you want to.
I sometimes get a little bit jealous when I see women's really gorgeous setup spaces with the twinkle lights and vision boards and all that beautiful stuff. Like, we put the birth pool up while I was in labor, and that was it. It was just jammed in the corner of the room. But I had the right people in my space.
Yeah.
And I knew how physiological birth works. So it didn't
And not
really.
everyone's into that. Like I
Mm,
find with some of my clients, I'm like, oh, you can set up your, because for me, I do care about beauty and
yes.
having things look a certain way. But with my clients, like I say, oh, you know, you want to set up, let's make this exciting. They're like, I'm not really interested. I don't really care. And so it's like, okay, fine, just make sure you know what you're doing and you've got things organized.
Yes.
And mine wasn't set up before. I had I had affirmations, I had everything organized. The birth pool was blown up, but it wasn't like ready. My husband had already been instructed. And then as soon as I was in labor, he went off and beautified it because he knows what I like.
So
And
nice.
he's really creative like that too. So it was like beautiful. And that's the thing, when you're heavily pregnant, you don't feel like doing it. So that's when you got to delegate it to someone else if you're interested. And if you're not, say lovey. I mean, I've had clients who have birthed in like 40 minutes at home. And so
Yeah.
there's no time for any of that.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, we've like prepared, we've got all these beautiful things going, but I think the process sometimes is the magical part, because you're allowing time to call in and visualize and think of all of these things that could happen. And then you're becoming more confident to know that you're in control because you're creating this. When you're in the hospital system, there was a huge focus for me, like, this is my birth plan. Can you please sign it off? Like, please be on my team and please let me know that you allow me to do this. Like, if I was going in the hospital system, I wouldn't even bother with a birth plan. Like, I would have one for me,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be going to get approval from those people. I would just be going in, and I can say this now because I've had my experience, but I wouldn't be seeking external, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think by doing that process and doing those things, it can really cement that you are in control. And I see that change with my clients from the start, where we have their first call sometimes and they're crying on the phone. They're unsure if they're even going to have a home birth, to the end where my clients are enraged and they're like, I'm really angry. I can't believe they did this to my last birth and I want to, you know, get them. And they're like so cemented, some of them, in their plan to have that home birth. And so not everyone ends up like that. Like some are still working through fears. Everyone's very different, but you can definitely see a huge change through pretty much all of them as they go on that journey. And I think the process is the way it needs to be.
Yes. Love it. So tell us how highly sensitive people can need extra emotional support. Let's have a chat about these special people that you are so awesome at supporting.
Yeah, so highly sensitive people, I kind of talked a little bit about already, but highly sensitive people are people that are really aware of other people's feelings and thoughts. They can feel other people's energy really well. They're usually very observant. you can tell when someone's kind of lying to you. People think that they know that they're getting one under you, but usually they're told that they're too sensitive or they're too emotional or those sorts of things. And generally that you're a sensitive person. We don't always go by labels. So a lot of the women that I work with, they're like, I never knew I was highly sensitive. I never knew that that was me. And sometimes it can be you're not highly sensitive, but maybe you're responding to having experienced childbirth trauma. And so you're feeling like you need that extra support through that period because you've gone through a really traumatic experience with your last birth. There's a lot of unknowns. You may not have had that vaginal birth, or you had an induction last time and you're not sure your body's going to go into labor or how it's going to be. And so there's a lot of uncertainties kind of going through. And with highly sensitive people, there's a lot of anxiety and worry because I also work with type A personalities a lot, and that's like people who are overthinking, over planning, over worrying. We're always trying to make everything, hold it, trying to control everything, and you just can't control the journey. So there's a lot of letting go and surrendering, but that's a really hard thing for us to kind of do. So that's pretty much why having somebody like extra support is really helpful, because you can bounce those ideas. Usually I work with women who have got a team of support around them. So they might have a doula, they might have a midwife, they might have a massage therapist, and all of these people have input. It can get a little bit crazy sometimes having all of that external input, and you've got to kind of, remind them to come back to themselves. And if they choose the right people, those people usually will direct them back to themselves. And then eventually they'll get to the point where they're feeling more confident. And that's why it's so important to be really mindful about the people that you do choose in your pregnancy support, because you want them to be propping you up and reminding you to come back home so that you can, that's right. Actually, what am I thinking about? Just because I heard that, it doesn't mean anything. I'm going back into myself and believing and trusting in that experience. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about your new program.
Yes.
You've got coming out, your group mentoring program.
Yes.
Love me a group program.
Super excited. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I had a group program a few years ago in the postpartum space called Journey into Motherhood.
Yes.
And the women that joined me through that, they ended up staying with me for years. And so we kind of transitioned through, like, now we've got toddlers and now we've got this and now we're having second babies. And so I've always wanted to do group programs. I work with women one-on-one as well, but in a group program, the beauty that I see with that is that they've got me as the expert and the guide, and I will provide them with videos and workbooks to make sure they've got their mindset, they understand physiological birth, instinctive birth. They have all of those logical resources that are there, but then they have touch-ins with me as well every month. So we do 2 live calls where they can ask any questions, they can vent, they can share what's happening, but also in a safe Facebook group so they can, in between those calls, hey, my mother said this, blah, 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 and I can support them through that. The other thing is that you're working with like-minded women who are going through the same journey. So quite often someone's just worked through that problem and they can say, oh, I just went through that and I can support you, or they're about to go through that. And so it's like a collective knowledge and a collective experience, but also a sisterhood, which has always been my vision of women supporting women ever since I left school and got into my 20s. I just want to raise the vibration of women and connect us all and support it. I just don't believe in dragging people down. I think we should all support each other, and this is what I really envision for this experience. And so it's going to be super fun. It's going to be super connective, very high touch. And at the moment, it's like, obviously it's the first time that I'm running this exact program, so it's at the most affordable price. And I'm also doing payment plans too, so it's more affordable and easy for people to pay too, which makes it easier.
Yeah, because like everyone's got those competing costs at the moment. It's all insane.
Yeah, exactly. And so to be able to break it down into like, it's only this much that I have to worry about, just makes it so much easier.
How long does your program go for?
So my program goes for 6 months. And so that's the full support through you know, whether it's through the pregnancy or it's part of the pregnancy and then postpartum. I'm also a trained postpartum professional, so we can give that full support through the process too. And it's also open for anyone who's like curious about home birth or thinking about home birth and wants to do that mindset work and birth education, and also have someone to bounce, because it took me quite a few years to kind of say yes to home birth or free birth, really. And I needed that conversation. I needed to kind of get me to the space of saying yes and being able to do it as well.
Yes. Who's your absolute perfect client for this? Who do you envisage in here? Tell me
Oh,
all about her.
she's like, basically she's me. Basically, the women, I always work with people like me, you know, they're beautiful. Like, okay, so I don't want to say this because it's about me, but the women that I work with are beautiful souls who really know that they want to have a home birth. They know they have this deep calling. They know in their heart that they got ripped off by their last birth, but they question, like, can I really do it? Can I really have a home birth? Can I really have a vaginal birth? And so they know about mindset stuff, but they're not practicing the mindset stuff at the moment. They need that accountability, and they need that hand holding. They need that reminder, and they need a safe space to come and vent to. They might have a really supportive partner. Most of the time they do, but they need more than their partner. They need like women to support them. They need somebody who's been through the experience and someone who deeply trusts and believes in them. And so those are the women that I work with, women who know that they can do it, who believe in themselves, but they might not be declaring it to the world because they haven't had the experience. They're still a little bit unsure, but they're still treading the path of, okay, this is the path I need to tread. So yeah. And so through that experience together, we get them to the point of them deeply believing and trusting themselves, and then going for that home birth experience and proving to themselves everything they knew was true. And then they come out the other end a completely changed woman.
Oh my God, I love it so much. How can they sign up?
So I've got I'll give you the link. So there's a link. They can just
Beautiful.
click a button and you can choose from 2 different options to work with me. The one price is 350 Australian dollars. So it's a quick and easy, simple one payment. Otherwise, I've currently got $60 each month for the 6 months. So it's broken up into 6 easy payments. And you'll get access to the Facebook group straight away. You'll get access to me straight away. And then we start in the next couple of weeks.
Beautiful. I did have one more question. So is this open to women outside of Australia as well as within Australia?
It sure is. And so I set the time zones up so that I have a morning call and an afternoon call, or a nighttime call, I should say. So it works out like my morning call works well for like women in America, and my nighttime call works well for women in the UK, because I work with women on both sides, and everyone in between kind of works in so that somebody gets at least one call, but sometimes 2 calls a month.
Absolutely.
And Australians can make obviously both
I
calls.
can just come all the time. Yay.
Yeah, Australia, New Zealand can, you know, no problem. Yeah.
I love it so much. It sounds amazing. I will make sure that with the recording of this, we will link your socials. We will link the sign up. Um, if women just want to ask a question, want a little bit more information, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, just send me an email or send me a DM. Like if you've got my Facebook, send me a PM. If you've got my Instagram, send me a DM. And I'm more than happy to chat to you through chat, or I'm happy to jump on a call just like this and answer any questions, because I want you to feel safe, and I want you to know that you trust me, that this is the journey for you, and that you're going to be looked after. And what better way than to kind of have a conversation to ask those questions.
Beautiful. Before we close off, what's your final message to all those women out there thinking about a home birth?
Well, if you're thinking about a home birth, my final message would be to really think hard and follow that thinking message. I think like when you know, if you're thinking about a home birth, it's because you know that there's something not aligned for you for a hospital birth. So dig deeper, listen to your calling, do the research, do the things that you need to do to get you the answer, and just follow calling and go with it. There's a lot of logical information out there to convince you that the intuitive side of you is speaking something really clear to you. So then you can push them together and make the right call for yourself.
I love it so much. Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming and chatting with me today
Thank
about
you for
this.
having me, Liz. So much fun.
It was so much fun. Everyone, jump over and follow Ashley. She is amazing. I love chatting with you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we will see everyone again soon.
We will. Yeah, we're going to do this with you soon, which is cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.